Hey, Jave, how you doing?
Sean, how are you, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So this must all seem a little surreal to you, yeah?
It is a little bit, for sure.
I mean, doing press and stuff. What have you been up to over the past couple of decades? I mean, since Grey Daze went away and Chester Bennington became a massive worldwide phenomenon with Linkin Park. What have you been up to?
So Grey Daze originally disbanded in 1998, and I had started a company called Club Tattoo.
Yeah.
Basically, after I left the music scene, I just invested my time and energy into becoming an entrepreneur and developed my brand globally called Club Tattoo, which Chester eventually became a business partner in 2003.
Right.
I dove into the entrepreneurial world pretty heavily and wrote a book and speak around the world and just run my company. What
is Club Tattoo? Can you summarize it in a couple of sentences?
Sure. Club Tattoo is a luxury tattoo and piercing brand. We have stores in Arizona and Las Vegas, inside the casinos on the Strip, and we basically specialize in high-end experience, have a very, very cool brand, and it's done very well for us. Okay, so
now do you hire like a masseuse or somebody to jump in and take care of making your toes twinkle while you're while you're imparting the pain of a tattoo? Do you get mimosas with your tattoo?
That's not a bad idea, but no. We just have a very, very beautiful aesthetic to the stores. We've got very forward-thinking digital technology that kind of runs the user experience with touch-screen interfaces that have digital libraries and stuff like that. It's a really cool experience.
That's awesome. I wish we had a Club Tattoo here in Reno. Maybe you should think about that.
Maybe.
Hey, tell me, we're talking to Sean Dowdell, by the way, drummer extraordinaire from the band Grey Daze. What's one thing that people would be surprised to know about Chester Bennington that maybe we don't already know? Maybe something that you know just from growing up with the guy?
Let's see. The biggest thing people would be surprised is that Chester really didn't realize he was a rock star. Huh. He was the most humble, genuine person I think you would ever meet in your life, and he really was nice to everybody he met, and not because it was an act, like the typical celebrity act that they can put on. He never did that. He was the nicest guy to the janitor, to the cab driver, to the chef, to the waiter, the waitress. I mean, he just was a genuinely nice human being. He's just an easy guy to like. So I think for most people, they'd be surprised at his humbleness, his humility.
Now, a suicide it's certainly a shock for anybody and everybody involved, and not to get too dark here, but did his passing away, did that seem out of character or come as more of a surprise than you would have thought, or did he always seem to be a bit of a tortured soul? I know he was bullied a lot as a kid growing up in middle school and high school, and you stepped in kind of as a big brother figure, but tell me a little bit about that.
So he was definitely a tortured soul, but I never anticipated or saw anything happening like what happened. His suicide was something that came out of left field for me. We were speaking on the phone. Again, we are business partners, so we talked every single week. We played basketball together. We went and had lunch and dinners together. We traveled together. We were in each other's life a lot. So I never saw this coming. It was a complete shock to me. I spoke to him 2 days before it happened. We were supposed to have dinner 2 days after it happened. And he seemed like he was on top of the world. He was excited about all the things that were going on. I just didn't see it coming, and that's one of the things, those feelings of guilt that you get that you have when something like this happens. Like, how could I have prevented this? And it's just one of those things I don't have an answer for.
Yeah, having experienced it firsthand myself with a very close friend, I know the feeling after the fact. Wow, what were the warning signs? What maybe did I miss there? Was he on any type of medications, kind of like Chris Cornell was, a bizarre cocktail that will spin you out of control? And I've had other friends come really close calls to suicide because of prescription medications.
That is an excellent question, and I don't want to sound rude. It's just one of those things I don't want to get into.
Right.
I'd rather keep the respect the family's wishes, but it is an excellent question, and he was on medication. I just don't want to get into how much of what kind or whatever else.
No worries. How much were Chester's folks involved in his early career?
So Chester, he actually lived with his father when I met him. His mom had divorced his father and then moved to the other side of town. So he wasn't around his mom until probably, I'm going to guess, when he was around 19, 20 or so, after he had moved out of his father's house. His father raised him pretty much on his own for the first couple of years, from, I would say, 15 to 17 or 18. Mm-hmm. And then Chester moved out, lived with me for a while, and then for a brief moment lived with his mom. So when I was around and the band was forming, his mom was just recently departing the divorce situation, so there wasn't a ton of contact, although he still called her, and they talked and did see each other, but he wasn't living with her.
Okay. It's Sean Dowdell from Grey Daze, the drummer in the band. Tell me about Chester's son's talents. What was his input on the new Grey Daze album? Because I did notice him in one of the videos.
So we had Jamie sing backing vocals on one song called Soul Song, and it was just more of a way for me to try to connect Chester to his kids. Mm-hmm. He never got to perform with his kids when he was alive, and it's one of those things I thought he would have really appreciated and done had he been alive. So it's one of those things I reached out to all the children. Talinda didn't feel like the youngest ones were quite ready, and I totally understand and respect that. And Draven was a little bit apprehensive. But we did invite all the children. Draven may sing on the next album. He's getting a little bit more used to and warming up to the idea of trying to connect with his dad through music. But Jamie did a great job on Soul Song, and we had him come down, and we gave him a couple choices of songs, and that's the one he chose. And, he's not singing main vocals or anything like that, but he is getting to sing with his father. He did a fantastic job. He's got a great voice, and I think people are going to love it.
Dynamite. Now let's talk about What's in the Eye. It's a fan single. How close to the original is it? Or was What's in the Eye even a song when you guys were playing in Grey Daze? Did you just pick up some parts of vocal parts and make What's in the Eye, post tense?
No, so What's in the Eye is really close to the original sound of the band. We went back and obviously re-recorded all the instruments and rewrote some of the parts. We have Chris Traynor and Marcos Curiel from Chris Traynor from Bush, Marcos Curiel from POD also played guitar along with Kristen Davis on that track. And it does sound really, really similar to the original track, but it's one of the only songs on the record that sound very, very close to the way it did back then.
What can you tell fans about the official single? It's called The Sickness. It'll be coming out here at the beginning of February.
So lyrically, Sickness is about a young man who's malcontent in life. He's not understanding what life is about. He's trying to find his way. And it's really about just trying to figure out what the hell he's here for. He needs more out of life. Mm-hmm. And that's really what Chester's speaking to in those lyrics. I think the fans are going to connect with it instantly because it really showcases Chester's angst and his ability to connect with people emotionally through the lyrics, and the emotional intensity is very evident. I think this is one of those songs you'll listen to once and go, holy crap, I love it.
Now, it has a very Allison Chains vibe to it. Was that a big inspiration, or were you guys getting in on Allison Chains back when Grey Daze was together with Chester Bennington?
Yeah, we loved Allison Chains back in the 90s. I still love Allison Chains. Lane Staley was a huge influence for Chester, and Jerry Cantrell, the way they wrote was very... it was very special to us. They held a very prominent role in our writing, for sure.
What can you tell me about the rest of the album?
I think you guys are going to love it. We spent a lot of time, almost 3 years, curating and making sure that every single piece of music was done the right way for the right reason. We showcased Chester's voice in a way a lot of people have not heard before, and I think they're going to be able to connect with him through the music very easily. It's going to bring closure for some. It's going to reconnect them to Chester for others. And I think we did something very special and something we can all be proud of and something that Chester would have been proud of.
Now, I know I'm sure there's a name for the album. I haven't seen it yet, but what is it called?
The album name is called Amends, and we are releasing that, I believe, on February 6th, the same time that we release Sickness.
Okay. Now there's a mini documentary that I guess is going to be released in the future, a video, and I noticed some interesting individuals in the video. Namely this incredible singer known as the LP. What can you tell me about Chester's either relationship with the LP or your relationship with the LP, and tell me who else you worked with on the record?
So we'll start with LP. So we have a mutual friend, Chester and I. His name is Renee Mata out of New York, and he manages artists. I remember driving around in a car with Chester on our way to lunch one day, and he said, "You got to listen to this new chick. Her name's LP. She's amazing." And he played this song called "Lost on You."
Yes, awesome song too.
He was he was flipping out over this girl. I had never heard of her before, so that just stuck in my mind. So we're going through people in our minds. Who would we want to reach out to come and do something on the record? She was on the list, and I spoke to Renee. He reached out to her management, and she was a huge fan of Chester. She came right in. She sings on a song called Shouting Out. She does an amazing job. She's incredible. And then some of the other people we have play on the record, we reached out to some mutual friends. Head and Monkey from Korn play on a track. We have Paige Hamilton play on a track. We have Marcos from POD. We have Chris Trainer from Bush. We have Ryan from Dead by Sunrise. So all people that knew Chester very well, or people that Chester wanted to play with, or people that wanted to play with Chester that never got a chance to, that had a connection, either knew him, but either if they did, like in Chris Trainer's case, he did not know Chester, but Chris was a big influence for Chester. Chester loved the band Bush, and we just try to connect dots that way, and think people that made sense and held the integrity of the project intact.
Okay. We're talking again to Sean Dowdell, drummer from Grey Daze. Are there plans to tour around the album Amends, the release? And if so, who would be handling the vocal duties?
So touring is not really a thing that we're thinking about, because the entire idea behind this project is to pay homage and complete a project with Chester. So I feel it would be a bit disingenuous if I just picked up a new singer and started touring with this music that we spent all this time curating around Chester. It doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. The only way we will do live shows is in like a tribute fashion, where we brought in another singer to sing these parts around Chester. We would still blanket the entire concept around Chester in a tribute fashion, if that makes sense.
Sure. And one final question for you, Sean. Is there still enough material as far as just vocals that Chester laid down to even fathom maybe a second record from Grey Daze down the line?
You know it. We have lots of stuff, and it's lots of very special stuff. We had to be very careful not to give everything golden on the first record. Everything is really good on the first record, but we have some really great stuff in store on the second one as well.
That's dynamite. Well, Sean, I hope that our paths cross sometime in the future. You're just a hop, skip, and a jump to the south of us, with us being here in Reno. And are you in Tempe? Or you're in Arizona? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm based in Phoenix and Las Vegas. I live in both places.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we've got radio stations down in Las Vegas. So I hope our paths cross in the future, Sean, and congratulations on this release. I know it was a labor of love, and from the limited amount of material I've heard so far, I'm really excited to hear the entire album, especially that one with LP, because she's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time today and having me on.